I want to get a quick thought from you on the heating up of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes.
Yeah, baby.
It sure seems like Phoenix is motivated to make a Durant deal prior to the June 25th NBA draft, which is just about 12, 13 days away. Um, I said this on a previous podcast, but every coach that the Suns spoke to about their job, they were told to get ready to coach Devin Booker, to get ready to coach Bradley Beal, partly because you can't really trade him, but nothing about Kevin Durant. So the expectation is that Kevin Durant will be moved prior to the start of free agency, probably prior to the start of this draft. We've heard some of the names that are out there. We've heard San Antonio, we've heard Houston, we've heard Miami. The Knicks were floated out there. The beat writer Glitterati, what do you want to call them? The beat writer, like almost in group response, they said
Yes.
that the Knicks were not interested in Kevin Durant. So we can take that for what it's worth. What do you think? Like, where does Durant make the most sense? This guy's going to make around $50 million next year, so you're going to have to give up some stuff to go and get him. But he still is a bucket every time he puts his hands on the ball, every time he steps on the basketball court. Where do you think it makes the most sense for Kevin Durant right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I am the flag bearer of the somehow Kevin Durant is still underrated camp. I think because of all the drama and because of some of the failures of some of these teams he's been on, and sometimes he's done things that have been part of that, but a lot of times it's been injury or Bradley Beal's contract or other things like that. I think there are people who are fans or around the league who have just sort of forgotten just how good he is, how reliable that shot is, and how it's going to live for a very long time. I would feel very comfortable signing Kevin Durant if I was a GM to a 3-year contract because his shot is still going to be excellent.
So you would do it. Well, let's just pause there. You would do a 3-year contract on top of the year he's got next year.
No, probably not. I mean, 3 years total. My
Okay,
point
so
is
a
like he's
2-year
37,
extension,
right?
basically.
So
Yeah.
in my head, I'm going to
Yeah.
40, right? So whatever that is, however we want to phrase it. I feel the same way about Steph Curry, by the way. He's not going to be able to run and cut when he's 60 years old, but I think he'll still shoot the sweetest three-pointer you ever saw. So I just think that there are some guys who have skills that will outlast how long they want to play. And KD is one of those to me. I'm intrigued by the Minnesota scenarios that have been floated around. It just kind of depends for them, like how much the asking price is from Phoenix and what the competition is, right? Because the asking price can be high, but if no one else is willing to pay it, the asking price is going to go down because they have made it very clear that they would like to trade him. And they see that as a path to clearing up salary. And once you have telegraphed that to the entire league, I just think that what they ask is not what they're going to get at the beginning. And some of these scenarios where people are talking about, well, would Minnesota really want to give up X, Y, Z, and W? And I'm just not sure W is going to be on the table, like whatever it is. Like I think that the market might not be what the Suns initially set it at. And again, I would say that's not because of Kevin Durant's value. I think his value is super high. I just think that once you tell everybody, including KD, including the rest of the world, we need to deal with this guy. I mean, we all understand how supply and demand works.
Yeah, as I look at Minnesota, I'm looking up their salaries right now. Like, I'm not exactly sure how a deal with Minnesota works, right? Like, you've got a bunch of guys that are going to be free agents this summer, can be free agents this summer. Julius Randle, he's got a $30 million player option. Naz Reid, a $15 million player option. Nikhil Alexander-Walker is going to be a free agent, only making $4 million. Going to be in for a huge raise this summer. Like, what do you deal to get to that Kevin Durant salary? Like, do you throw Rudy in that mix? Like, I think they need Rudy to win.
No. That's been what I've seen is the Rudy situation.
So you go into next season with Durant and what, Randall or not? I guess Randall and Naz in the front court if you re-sign.
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously that is a different direction to go in defensively. And it just depends.
Very different direction. That now becomes a bad defensive team. Like, say what you want about Rudy, but he is a walking top 10 defense. he makes an impact. I don't know if that makes them. I don't know if that gets them on another level. I don't know that Durant is kind of missing.
I don't know. I look, the deal that I keep seeing is Rudy, Donte DiVincenzo, Dillingham, but they don't really want to part with Dillingham. And
you need somebody. Or Mike Conley's not going to play forever, so you got to have somebody playing that position.
Exactly. KD is Ant's idol. Is that factored in here? Where is the other defense coming from? What do you think of the defense that Rudy has provided? I also think he gets a bad rap sometimes. There's things he obviously can't do, and I think those are pretty glaring. But he played really well in that Lakers series and was a big reason why they won it. And give up him, and again, you have a different situation, a different kind of team. Who's your favorite? Where do you think he would fit best?
Well, it's not, to me, it's not Miami. I don't know why. Like, what are we talking? Tyler Hero being thrown in there? Like Andrew Wiggins' contract, I guess, could be part of a deal. Terry Rozier's he's got 1 year left on his deal there at $26 million. I mean, they could probably make the money work. I don't know that a Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Kevin Durant, big three, you're competitive in the East, but I don't know that you're any closer to winning a championship with that group. I can see Miami doing it because this is what they do. Right. They take big swings, but I don't know if that makes a ton of sense. Look, to me, the teams that make the most sense continue to be the two Texas teams. It's to me, it's a no-brainer. I did find it interesting that the reports out there now, and look, this is just what Phoenix wants, that Phoenix wants the kind of package they gave up for Kevin Durant. Well, good luck getting that back. Like, good luck getting back the combination of Mikal Bridges and a whole bunch of draft picks that you sent to Brooklyn. Like, you gave up a haul. You gave up too much, quite frankly, to get Kevin Durant. You're never going to recoup that. But if you're trying to get draft capital back in return and maybe a young player or two, the two Texas teams are the ones that seem to make the most sense. I've been reporting for a long time that Houston, if Houston wants him, they can go and get him. Like, they have got the structure of a deal that can make sense for Phoenix. The Kevin Durant, Ime Udoka relationship dates back to their days in Brooklyn. A lot of respect there. As I've said many times, Ime Udoka has the respect of every player that I've ever known in the league. So it's a great fit there. And look, that's what they need. You know, they need a scorer. Like, they got beat in the first round because they didn't have a scorer. Jalen Green proved in the first round of the playoffs he's not that guy. So maybe you ship. So look, you can ship Jalen Green out as, you know, the young player / salary. You can put some other salary filler that's in there, and you can maybe start to restore some of the draft capital that you have of Phoenix's. Like, the one thing that Houston's got going for it is that they have a lot of Phoenix draft capital, results from the deals they've made over the last couple of years. If you give some of that draft capital back, it allows Phoenix to maybe go through in a more organic rebuild, if that's the direction that they choose. Like, they just hired a really young head coach in Jordan Ott. I just can't see them, you know, trying to piece together a contender over the next couple of years. But if they have the draft capital,
says Chris Mannix.
I don't know, the owner of the Phoenix Spartans down there with all the Michigan State connections you got happening down there. I saw something that's like Isaiah Thomas. Is that the latest reporting? Isaiah Thomas is like, we knew he was like, he has a relationship with Matt Ishbia. That's been well documented. But some reporting now that he's involved in meetings on some level. I mean, I don't know, it's just weird. Look, I'm just saying, if you do a deal with Houston that gets you back some capital, it at least gives you options. Yeah, you can still try to build, but if it doesn't work, you can at least, you know, bottom out a little bit and still be able to have your own draft picks to play with.
I wonder whether the appeal of getting your own picks back, it really depends on whether we believe what the owner came out very strongly and said at this point, I think almost 2 months ago, which is, we will not rebuild, we will not tank, we will not go that route. I'm sure he feels empowered by watching what Indiana has done, right?
Why would he feel empowered by that?
Well, it's sort of that whole, you don't have to tank. See, if you just draft smartly, you can do it. So if we have our own picks, it'll be fine. But here's the thing. If they don't try to tank, having their own picks is not as valuable. The reason why having your own picks is valuable is because you can control where those picks end up, right? You can decide, how hard are we going to play? Having your own picks when you're trying really hard doesn't matter as much. I like that the Spurs could offer them a more of a potpourri of picks of different teams, right? The Spurs have collected from other teams, and they could kind of offer like, oh, well, what about this team's pick or that team's pick? You know, with both teams, though, I guess I do agree with you that he will probably end up in Texas. And by the way, obviously great for him. He grew up right near my hometown. Yep. He grew up very close to me, but he went to Texas, and I think he still has a lot of affinity there. But he's on such a different timeline than both of those teams. Do you see that being a problem, or that's fine?
I think it depends on what you have to give up.
Right.
Look, I don't see either one of these teams going deep into their bag of assets to go and get Kevin Durant, but if it cost the Rockets Jalen Green, a draft pick, another piece, I think they'd go and do it. If it cost San Antonio some of their later first-round draft capital, plus some of the guys they're willing to deal, talking about Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, I think they would go and do it. Like, the Spurs are not dealing Dylan Harper. The Rockets are not dealing either Alperen Sengun or Amen Thompson. Like, there's a limit to how far these teams are going to go. I think he would help both these teams. Like a healthy Victor Wembanyama with De'Aaron Fox, with Kevin Durant. That's a team that can compete in the Western Conference next season. Same thing with Houston. We saw them win 50-plus games, be a top 4 team in the West. You put Kevin Durant in the place of Jalen Green, they're a better team. I can see the motivation for both of those teams to make a play on a Durant if some of the other options are off the table. We're not going to get into Giannis on this show. We'll give Giannis a break.
Which, by the way, I think is going to be interesting. If the Suns are so hot to make a deal, we thought, well, now that Giannis is potentially, because we're going to get to that too, but don't think we can get out of this podcast without me saying, see, it looks like the Bucks aren't going to trade him unless he asks.
Maybe. Well, I don't think they're ever going to trade him unless he asked. But
you said they should.
I still think they should. I still think you got to operate a franchise in a cold-blooded manner. You got to do what's right for your organization.
It took you 50 years to get another one after Kareem.
Well, whose fault is that? Like, stop sucking at drafting, right? Like,
God,
be like Oklahoma City. Like, Oklahoma City drafts Jalen Williams, 12th overall in 2022. Like, hit on your draft picks.
Milwaukee drafted Giannis at 15?
I know. Like, teams should be expected to hit on these picks. I'm sorry. Like, every time I hear about how difficult it is to draft in the first round, to identify top talent, this is literally your job. Like, you have all these talent scouts. This is literally your job. You have an unlimited budget. You should be able to identify top talents more often than not. And every year, Rachel, you know this, there is a Jalen Williams. There is a Giannis Antetokounmpo. 100%. There is these superstar. Maybe not Giannis. He doesn't come along every year. But there's a all-star caliber player that is drafted in the mid to late first round.
Yes.
Every single year. Sometimes in the second round, there's an all-star caliber player. Like, teams should be expected. I'm sorry. This is your job. Your job is to identify talent. If you can't do your job, you should go do something else.
Well, regardless, the Giannis decision does not feel like it's going to happen before the draft.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't.
Right?
I agree.
There's a little bit of where do other teams sort out? Would he want to go there? Does he want to stay in Milwaukee? What does the East look like? So there is a feeling when the Giannis stuff sort of first had some momentum of, all these teams like Houston, like the Spurs, et cetera, they're going to put Kevin Durant on hold and those conversations on hold because they don't want to waste what they could get, what they could use to get Giannis. That doesn't look like it's going to be an option anymore. So I'm curious too if teams are going to gamble and say, okay, it doesn't look like he's leaving Milwaukee. Let's get Kevin Durant while he's here and available, or whether they'll say, you know what, we're going to hold our powder, keep it dry, and hopefully Giannis will be available. By the way, it's not the first time teams have stocked up waiting for Giannis Antetokounmpo and then have it not happen, but it's happened that teams have been like, we're willing to take the risk.
Knicks have been doing it for years. Before they made all these deals to build the current roster, like they were stockpiling assets, stockpiling young talent in hopes of making a deal to go get Giannis. Look, they were trying to sign Thanasis a few years ago. Like they were trying to do everything to get entice Giannis to want to play in New York. Look, it's not an easy decision for a front office to make, to whether to keep your powder dry or to go out and get the guy that might be available right now. I do think, though, this kind of pie in the sky idea that Giannis is going to be happy being Dirk Nowitzki is just that to me. Like, how many interviews does Giannis have to do where he talks about his desire to win championships? I was listening to Jeff Teague on Rich Eisen's show during the week, and Jeff, who played with Giannis, said, Rich kind of asked him about this specific topic. And Jeff was like, he always talked about wanting to win championships. He had to win more than one championship. So he's not being subtle with this. Like, he's not hiding his desire to win championships. And if the Bucks, look, I think John Horst is as good a GM as there is in the league. He's conducted wizardry over the last few years, like putting together a championship level roster in Milwaukee year after year, satisfying Giannis enough that he signs extension after extension. But we've talked about this. It just feels like the Bucks have hit a wall here. Like, they don't have assets. At least not enough to make the team competitive next season. We're talking about letting Brook Lopez go. Maybe Bobby Portis goes. Dame, trying to bounce back from this injury, probably going to miss most or all of next season. Like, this is a team that could very easily fall out of the play-in mix in the Eastern Conference. Like, does Giannis want to stomach that? As great as he is, and he could have an MVP caliber season, being the man on that team with somebody like Cam Payne as his starting point guard, and Kyle Kuzma hanging out there on the wing. Like this, he could do that, I guess. But there's nothing he has said, and nothing others have said about him makes me believe that is the road he wants to travel. So I'm just gonna try to believe what my eyes are seeing, believe what my ears are hearing, and kind of use that to guide me there. All right.
So if you were a front office that was interested in both guys potentially, and one is 30 years old and one is 37 years old, would you wait for the 30-year-old MVP, or would you take the 37-year-old former MVP?
I think it's a more difficult question if you're San Antonio. Well, look, San Antonio's not going to deal the rights to Dylan Harper to anyone. I saw some reporting out there about Philadelphia getting in the mix. Philadelphia's not getting the number 2 pick. All right, nobody's getting the number 2 pick out of San Antonio unless there's a Giannis level deal on the table to go and get him. That's tricky. You want to keep not just your draft capital, but your tradable contracts. Because if you trade your tradable contracts for Kevin Durant now, what are you going to turn around and flip to go and get a Giannis later? I think if you're like, I don't know that Houston. I don't know if Houston has the muscle to outbid teams right now. Yeah, those Phoenix assets are nice, but who's the player that the Rockets are throwing in that deal? Like Jalen Green has some promise as a second or third option, but he's young enough that you don't want to like close the book on him. But it just kind of feels like he is what he is, a pretty good scorer that may never develop to being like kind of the guy you need him to be on a championship level team. We'll see. Maybe he'll prove us all wrong next year. But I think for San Antonio, it's a much more complicated decision. But I do think it's going to get busy. It's going to get real busy over the next few weeks. I think draft night is going to be pretty exciting based on some of the conversations I've been having over the last week or so.